All right, folks. You're very welcome. We'll make a start. Gareth's unavailable tonight. So my name's Ryan Mallon. I'm going to deliver tonight's webinar around goal setting. I know we have we've got different I suppose different people from different angles on the call tonight. Some people would be coaches or managers. Some people are players. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to tailor the presentation so that everybody is getting something out of it. And really, because I like these things to be interactive, but because we've only got half an hour tonight, that may be limited. But I would encourage you in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself at any stage, just to ask a question for clarity, or share some ideas of what you've used in the past that maybe has worked for you. But I would stress that we that will be quite limited given I suppose the time that we've got to work in tonight. Just to fire away straight away, we're going to look at team goals, and there's three different types. Number one would be the outcome goal. So I suppose that's where a lot of us fall down, setting that goal of we're going to win the championship, we're going to win the league, we're going to win the All-Ireland, those type of things. Okay, that goal is it's concerned with the end product, conditioned by success. Okay, so I've just mentioned win the championship or league, achieve promotion or avoid relegation. It says here it's externally controlled. So I suppose what that really means is you could do everything right, as a coach or as a group of players, and still not achieve that. There's external things could wipe you out on that. So say, for example, a couple of bad refereeing decisions, injuries to key players, a number of different things could, make that unachievable for you. It's still a good thing to do. I think it's still a good thing to set with your the teams that you're working with, but it's not something that you should be, I think, revisiting on a daily basis. The other goals that I'm going to show you now are the ones that you would try to encourage on a daily basis. So performance goals is very, very important to set them. So this is particularly in a game scenario. What are you looking for as a manager? And again, we're probably coming at this from a manager or a coach point of view. So what do you want? What goals do you want from your players or from your team? And quite often we talk about, hands-on, the amount of tackles that are made, the amount of turnovers, scores per half for, scores per half against. Maybe sometimes you like to set an individual goal for a player to get on a certain amount of possessions. Maybe your key players getting a certain amount of possessions in a game. So the performance goals are the things that we look at, I suppose, in a game, are key performance indicators, what you want to see as a coach. Okay. And then the other type of goals are our process goals. And for me, those are the type of things that go on in training, okay, or on a daily basis. All right. So fitness, strength, what goes on in the training sessions? Are the training sessions intense? How do you measure that? So all those type of things. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but it's just to be aware of that there are different types of team goals. So again, by all means, set them all. Okay. But this one here at the top, of course you want to set, you want to win your championship, or you want to win your league or whatever, but it's not something I think that you should be continuously harping on about. The other ones, that the performance goals and the process goals, are the things that you do to get to the outcome goal, if that makes sense. And as I say, that outcome goal, it just, as I say, there's too many external things involved there that can take that goal away from you. So that's what I would be saying. Make sure that you're setting your performance goals to the players. Exactly what numbers they need to be hitting in games, and then what type of things do they need to be doing in training sessions or on a daily basis to I suppose to make these performance goals possible. Because if you're looking for the example here, effort, tackles, and training's not intense, or training, there's not, they're not fit enough to do it, it's not going to work. Okay. So So again, I suppose just to go into a wee bit more detail, your outcome goals, the why, have a clear vision of what you see the team achieving. Don't see them where they are now, but where they could be. Your skill as a coach is selling it to them. Okay, making them believe or convincing them that they can do it. Okay, if you believe in it strongly, it'll help your players believe as well. And open it up to the team. Find out what their expectations and the goals that they have. Okay, but again, I still go back to that. If you're on here from a management or a coaching point of view, you nearly need to use your persuasion skills to get them to believe that they can achieve what you want them to. Okay, your performance goals, that's the how. The thing the team are doing during a game that make them successful. These are the things you want the players to really focus on. They're controllable, they're based on effort and attitude, they're controllable. That's in there twice, and it takes the pressure off the winning thing. I suppose that's something that I have learned. I suppose being involved in the mental skills side of things, quite often we get obsessed with the scoreboard. You know, the winning, and a player's effort can kind of relate to what's going on the scoreboard. Quite often, you see if you're handy enough, you're 7 or 8 points up. Players can start to cruise a wee bit. And again, the same is can be said if you're 7 or 8 points down, the heads drop or whatever. I think if you have your performance goals there, you kind of take the scoreboard thing out of it, and players are it's very, very specific what they need to be doing and what they need to hit. And of course, they may change throughout the year. Maybe if you're new with a team, it might take you a wee while, working out, what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and what needs to be improved on. And the process goals is the what. What are they going to do in training to make the performance goals possible? Okay. Revisit, maybe it says here every night of training. That might be a wee bit excessive to say that you would revisit every night in the training, but definitely you should be coming back to your process goals. What do we need to be doing on a nightly basis, on a daily basis, that we're able to achieve what we want to do on the pitch? And again, for yourself as a coach, every time you take a training session, ask yourself, how does this relate back to our goals? There's a group task here. I can't do it tonight, obviously, with our time constraints and because we're online. Um, but I definitely would say it's a very, very simple process that you can do with your team. And it would just look like this, say on a flip chart. You would set out your outcome goal and you would write it in here. Okay. Your outcome goal would be quite small. You know what I mean? It's just winning a championship, winning a league, whatever it is. There should be a wee bit more detail in the performance end of things. What certain amount of turnovers, um, certain amount of possessions won, certain amount of possessions give away, certain amount of kickouts won, all those type of things. You, as a coach, you'll have those type of things that what it is you want to hit. And then the process. These are the things I say happen in training. Is it intense? What's the nutrition and hydration like? What's the lifestyle like? Um, what's the energy like in training? All those different type of things would come in under the process. And again, it would be very, very clear just to do this exercise on a flip chart, and that people would be very clear of, right, what do we need to do in training in here? What are the things that we need to do in a match? And if we do those things, you do have a chance of reaching your goal. Okay. Just before I move on, so I've went through that pretty quickly. Is there any questions that anybody wants on that? If there is, you can unmute or you can type it into the chat. Just give a minute or so there. Right. I don't think there's anything coming through. Um, just going to run through then. Probably this is more for a player point of view, or indeed it can be relevant to a coach if you want to work individually with players and sit down with them. Um, How do you do it? How do you set yourself goals? All right. And I suppose if you're into goal setting, you would have heard of the SMART principle. Okay. So what the SMART principle sets out is that any goal that you set for yourself, whether it be to improve your scoring or to improve your scores in the gym or whatever, they need to be these five different things. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. Um, and I'll show you maybe an example of these now in a minute. Before we get to the example, I suppose sometimes people ask, well, how do I know what goals to set? How do I know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at? For anybody that was on Gareth's session in this particular program around the performance profiling, that's a really, really good exercise for yourself as a player or even as a coach to sit down with your players and work out where exactly that you are. Okay. You should be profiling three different areas, or sorry, five different areas. Physically, what are you good at, or what's important to you? Technically, your skills, where are you at in your different skills? Tactical, do you understand the game? Do you understand the tactics? Do you understand the role that you've got? How are you coping with things mentally? You know, are you coping with frustration? Is your match preparation good? Do you do visualization, all those different type of things? What's your pre-performance routine like? And the last thing then would be your lifestyle. What's going on away from training or away from the games in terms of your sleep, your nutrition and hydration, how you're looking after yourself. So really what profiling does is identifies areas that need interventions, aid player motivation and adherence to training programs, allow players to compare and copy successful elite performers, and allow the coach and the player to monitor changes in profile over time. So this is quite small, but this is what it might look like. You know, that this person here has rated themselves out of 10 in their concentration, their first touch, their self-belief, focus, all those different things. You can really come up with whatever you want around the outside here. And I know Gareth has went into this in detail. And then you can score yourself out of 10. So what I would be recommending that you do then is the low ones. Okay, that should be the ones that you should be focusing on to improve. Okay, or setting some small goals to improve those over time. So just the one jumping out here, concentration. This player has scored themselves. I think that's like a 3 out of 10. That'll be something immediately that they should be setting goals in to try to improve. Okay, emotional control here as well. That's another thing that's quite evidently quite low. So that would be something again that you would probably be trying to get that score up a bit. I'll just show you how to do it. Okay, so this is the individual goal setting. I may as well jump in now and say it. I don't particularly like the SMART model. Okay, if you Google goal setting in sport, it's what comes up. For me, I'm not sure if it's realistic for a Gaelic footballer or hurler or camogue. Okay, it's probably more realistic for, say, for example, the like of an athlete that only competes 4 or 5 times a year, and like say, for example, like a swimmer, and they're trying to knock what is it, 0.5 of a second off their time over a 6 month period. But for some people in team sports, it does work as well. I'll show you another method that probably I think is a bit more realistic to ourselves in the GA. But just with this one, I'll just give you an example of how you can do it. So the first thing is to set your goal and why. Okay, so to improve my shooting as it's currently weak, with approximately only 50% of my shots going over the bar. Okay, that's very, very specific. What's your plan of action? Right, so you've identified what it is you want to do, what your goal is. Now, how are you going to do it? And I would recommend you do that in 3 steps. Ask advice from my coach. How can I improve my technique? Practice shooting in competitive practice situations 3 times a week with the aim of improving 10%. Again, that's very, very specific. Okay, not sure how realistic it is, but I'm just giving you the example. If you want to go away and do that, by all means. And practice my shooting after conditioning or after training so that I can maintain my focus even when I'm tired. So this example is it's very, very specific. It's measurable. It's all those things that we've had in there in this the SMART principle. Is it achievable? Are they realistic? Are they time bound? They've put all those things in. Now, after you've had your plan of action, it's the smart thing to do is to identify the possible obstacles, of not being able to achieve these, or things that might get in the way of achieving these actions. So the example here would be not getting to practice in competitive situations 3 times a week due to lack of facilities or study time. Okay. And again, once you've identified the possible obstacles, it's also the smart thing to do to identify possible solutions. So using the time I do have to practice with focus and intent, making it as competitive as possible. Or another thing you could do, watch past videos of myself where I shot well and focus on the positives or focus on my technique. So this example here, I've put a wee web address into the chat just before we started. It's the ulster.gaa.ie/PALS microsite. And what PALS stands for is performance and lifestyle. And there's a goal setting section in it. And you can download, there's blank templates or there's example templates, the same as the one that we're looking at here. And you can have a go at that yourself or have a go with that with the players that you're working with. Okay, so what I did say was it's the SMART principle. It's grand in theory. I'm not sure for us as people involved in the GAA how applicable it is. The way I see it is probably more like a process when you're involved in the GAA. So you play a match, okay? You recover, you review how you played, or even this could be from either a player or a manager point of view, review how things went, and then the things that maybe didn't go so well, you build that into your training or build it into your practice, and then you play a match again. Okay, so that to me that makes more sense because see this thing of I'm gonna increase my bench press from 80 kg to 85 kg over the next 10 weeks or whatever. I don't know. I don't really think our sport's like that. You know what I mean? I honestly think this cycle is more realistic. Play your match, do your recovery, right? What went well for me? What went well for us as a team? Okay, maybe we kicked a lot of wides or kickouts weren't up to scratch. Your goals then become practicing your shooting and practicing your kickouts in your training, and then play your next match in the season and see how you get on, and then the cycle starts again. Okay, so this template here, it's something that I would recommend doing either for a team or you can do it as an individual as well. Okay, it's quite small here, so I'll just navigate you through it. So there's a section here that you type in who it is you're playing, or write in who you're playing, the date of the game. This is very much an individual example. So player name, and then what you would do before the game is set your individual goals. So maybe the last game well, I don't know, maybe you were a defender and you're expected to get forward and you didn't get forward. Your communication was off. I don't know, maybe you were missing tackles or you were giving away scoreable frees, whatever it may be. So put your goals for your next match in here. All right. Say I only want to concede 1 scoreable free, or I want to win 2 break balls, or whatever the example would be. So put your goals in there before the match, set it aside, go and play the match, and then review. Okay. Did I achieve my number 1, 2, and 3 goals? Yes or no? Okay. Always review as well what I did well. Okay, or what we as a team did well. Okay. The next thing would be what didn't go so well. What can I do better? What can I improve on? All right. And the things that are in here that you didn't do so well or you can improve on, that becomes your training goals for your next couple of training sessions. So the examples I would give, maybe kickouts weren't good, or too many wides or whatever. The smart thing is to, you wouldn't be thinking about, oh, I think I need to get my bench press better, or I need to get my squat better. The smart thing would be, right, we need to get our shooting sorted out, or we need to get our what example did I give you? Our kickouts. We need to get a better system in place, or we need to nail the system that we're working on. Okay. And then the last thing you would do, out of 10, you'd give yourself a score of your performance, your mental attitude, your preparation, and your recovery. Okay. And again, I suppose the beauty of this template is you can do it either as an individual yourself, you can sit down as a coach and do it with an individual or a number of your players, or you can actually sit down as a whole team and do this process. So it very much depends on what scenario that you find yourself in. And just, I suppose, an example here of one that's filled in. It's quite small, so I'm just not 100% sure. I think it's a getting forward in the ball, positioning, and their discipline. So that's what this particular player had set themselves before the match. They said they achieved them all. Okay, what they did well, so they've listed in there all the things that went well in the match. They've listed what we can do better, or what I can do better, and then the goal is set again. Right, what do I need to do in training, or what collectively do we need to do in training before our next match to perform better? Okay, so it's a very simple process, but I think it's a quite an effective process. Again, that template is on the PALS website, and there's an explanation as well there on how to use it. So by all means, I would say go ahead and use it, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, whatever scenario that you're in. And it's something probably that you need to repeat. It's not something that you would be doing maybe as a one-off. I would say if you can, every second game as an individual, I'd be sitting down and really reviewing. I think that's what separates, I suppose, the potential from the guys that can perform really well on an ongoing basis. They're constantly reviewing, what did I do well, what did I not do so well, and what do I really need to focus on in training to bring me to the next level in the next game. Okay, there are a number, I suppose, of goal setting problems. Number one would be failure to sell players on goal setting to ensure commitment. So that is something that it's maybe it's a different topic that we're getting into. But when you have your pre-season meeting with your team or your players, you need to make sure that you're both on the same hymn sheet. Okay, because you could have all these ideas about training 5 nights a week, pushing for championships, really going at it, and the players could have a very, very different, I suppose, idea of how they want the season to go. Maybe they want to train a couple of nights a week, happy enough to just stay up or whatever. So you need to make sure that where you are is matched by the players, because if that's not very clear at the start of the year, you're in trouble, okay, straight away. So make sure that you've got agreement on that. Setting goals that aren't measurable, okay, so the goals need to be measurable, and I think players really it gives them a real sense of achievement when the goal's measurable and they meet it, or it gives them clarity as well. So again, the example that I give you, turnovers in the game, is nearly a really good indicator of how hard your team's working by the amount of turnovers that they get in the game. So it's so important that your goals you set are measurable. Sometimes what can happen is a coach maybe has an unwillingness to raise and lower goals accordingly, and again that can be unrealistic, and it can lead to a wee bit of, I suppose, resentment from the group. setting too many goals. And that's probably something that I should have mentioned earlier. Don't fall into that trap, of setting too many goals. You can't work on too many things at a time. I think 1 or 2 goals as an individual, or maximum 3 as a team, is enough. Don't fall into the trap of setting any more than 3 goals, because it just goes out the window. And focusing too much on outcome goals, and that's, maybe we'll go right back to the start. That's a mistake a lot of people make. Win the championship, win the league, and that just keep saying that, and they forget about actually the things. Well, what do we need to do? How do we break it down? What do we need to do in our games to win the championship, to get us into a position to win the championship? And stripping that back further, what do we need to do in our training sessions and our away from the group, to ensure that we're in the shape to actually do the things that we talked about doing in the matches? So just be very, very clear, and maybe do a wee bit of research yourself around outcome goals and performance goals. And obviously, the best will in the world, sometimes an example used to be fitness tests. Everybody did fitness tests at the start of the year, and then they were never revisited. So it's important that you have somebody within your group, if you are a coach, to monitor and evaluate goals and reset them. You know what I mean? Don't just do it as an exercise at the start of the year and then never mention them again. It needs to be an ongoing thing. Okay, that went through that pretty quickly. Hopefully you got something from it. There's 3 minutes left here. I'd be more than happy if anybody wants to ask a question, or just unmute your microphone if you want to ask, or if you want to type into the chat, by all means do that. You can go ahead there if anybody has any questions.
Just one there, Ryan. James
Yes.
here in area.
Yes, James, how are you?
It's more about the review, and coaches been hung up on goals, too many goals, and then it's the review process where you maybe say, as you said at the start, that be achievable and realistic. But then if there's too many set, or it becomes a negative, the team's not achieving them, and the feedback to players is negative, you're not doing your turnovers, you're not getting your X amount of turnovers or possessions or dispossessions, whatever you want to call it. It can sometimes just, it creates more work and creates, maybe say, an ill feeling among the group too for players.
Yeah.
Negative.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then I suppose that's where the skill comes in as a coach, and we all have to do it as a coach. You have to reevaluate. Sometimes we set our goals and we set the bar very, very high, and they don't become achievable. And as you say, that can create a negativity. We've all been there with, say, for example, teams, an underage team, and they're in a grade maybe higher than what they should be, and they're getting hammered and stuff like that. And quite often we can set our goals around results and wins. It's not realistic that a team in that scenario will win too many matches. So I think what you've got to do is you've got to break it down then. Right, what can we achieve? What would be a realistic score for us to concede? What would be a realistic score for us to score? And I suppose teams need to see the small wee wins. Okay, where we had more turnovers than them, we won more break ball than them, we had less, balls given away needlessly. So that kind of comes with your skill, and you're right about what you're saying. Players need to see that they are hitting goals. There's nothing worse than going through a season and them not seeing any success. So it's all about, I suppose, your skill as a manager to make sure that you can reevaluate your goals, make them realistic, and give them that feedback when they do hit them.
So I kind of think it's important there too. I keep this to myself when I'm reviewing matches. I'd maybe say count player mistakes, and then maybe I don't mention the mistake to the player. I just say, like, I want you to see when you're tackling, make sure you're goal side, rather than maybe say giving up that ground out, first. Like, so the point I'm making is, I know it's sometimes you're looking for mistakes, you're looking for things to improve on, but then it's how you do that and how you say that and how you put that across to the player.
100%. How you
Right,
sell it to them, yeah, in a positive way. Yeah, 100%. Thank you, James. Is there anything else there anybody wants to ask before we wrap up? No, don't think so. Listen, thanks very much, guys, for joining the call. It was recorded. I think you'll be receiving a recording of it. And I'm just going to put my email address in here. Okay, that's my email address in the chat. Just I know sometimes people come on, maybe they have a question, they don't like asking it on the call. So if you have a question, just fire me an email and I'll get back to you at some stage tomorrow. All right, guys, listen, thanks a million.